Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our sixth episode of Digital Live. I am your host, Zach. If you are watching after the fact, thank you for watching. This is my co-host, Tariq.
Hi, I'm the co-host Tariq, and today we're joined here with Kylie Gilligan and Sheena Monin.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. And viewers, don't forget to comment for the Q&A and definitely specify which person you're asking the question to. It makes it easier. All right, let's get started. So let's do Kylie, then Sheena. So just give us a brief introduction of yourself, like where you went to school, what you majored in, that kind of thing.
Sure. So my name is Kylie Gilligan. I graduated from Eastern Michigan University in the spring of 2021, and I studied PR and now work in public relations in San Francisco.
All right. How about you, Sheena?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Sheena. I lead our marketing efforts. I'm the VP of Marketing at Passive Bolt. My master's degree is actually in psychology, so people love to give me a hard time. How did you go from psychology, doing therapy, etc., all the way over into the world of marketing? But there are quite a few fun overlaps. So happy to share more later on if needed, but very glad to be here.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense that those would kind of go well together, though, psychology and marketing.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely a fun journey trying to get into the mind of the consumer, trying to understand what motivates them, what compels them to make that purchase. It's been really interesting.
All right. Yeah, I bet. Now let's do the same order. Kylie, then Sheena. So tell us a bit about your current role and what brought you to that.
Sure. So I am an account coordinator for a national PR agency called DKC. So in my role, actually, I was just promoted to account executive, so not an account coordinator any longer. So in my role, I do a lot of media relations and strategic communication management. Obviously, as someone who majored in PR, directly related to what I studied in school. So once I started, getting more intrigued by my studies, started looking for job opportunities in the field, and DKC was the perfect fit. So
there you go. Sometimes it just happens like that. All right. How about you, Sheena?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Passive Bolt, we have our B2B endeavors that we are working towards with our technologies. Then on the other side of things, we have our direct to consumer line, our Shepherd Lock, which is, I have a box here with me. This is my baby. So I spend all of my days figuring out ways to sell Shepherd Lock, to bring it into the hands of the consumer. So I was just on a call earlier with a retail rep, and we're seeking opportunities to get it actually in Home Depot and Lowe's, Best Buy, etc. My day-to-day activities, as you can imagine, are very varied. Never do I seem to have 2 days that are exactly the same. Some days we're really focusing on our social media efforts. Other days I'm just, boots to the ground, having those meetings, trying to figure out creative ways to make our brand known in frankly, a very crowded space. So every day is an adventure.
Oh yeah, I bet it's like that high level. You kind of never know what you're gonna get at that point.
Yeah, I enjoy it though. It's definitely been a fun journey, and I think that one of my favorite parts is actually interacting with individuals, like in focus groups, doing customer discovery. That still remains one of my most enjoyable parts of this role. And anytime that I can insert myself in those activities, I do, because I find it to be fascinating. And it's probably that direct correlation between what I'm doing now and my roots in psychology, just trying to understand what makes people feel the need for something, because there's so many other electronic products that are out there, and finding those keywords that make them want to purchase Shepherd.
Yeah, no wonder psych majors do well in the clinic. It just makes it extra interesting.
Yeah.
All right, this next question is for Kylie. So, looking at your LinkedIn, it looks like you got a pretty big promotion recently, and congrats on that. So, what do you credit for getting to that new role?
I would say, well, it's a little interesting. Normally, people in my position don't receive promotions until about a year in. So my promotion happened rather quickly. And a lot of that I can credit to, just kind of being willing to dive in. I feel like when you enter, a new workspace or even a new career, there's a lot of trepidation there, especially, people who are just exiting college. You might feel, a lack of confidence in your skills and abilities. But I think my team was really impressed by the fact that even if I wasn't 100% sure how to complete a project independently, I was always willing to offer a hand and make sure everyone was supported and these projects got done in whatever capacity that meant as for my help.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like a solid strategy, just making sure you're giving it your all there. All right. This one is for Sheena. So I saw that you were running your own company a few years ago. Like, what did you learn from that experience, and how has that helped you in your current role as VP of marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have an interesting background. My father is an entrepreneur, and his father was an entrepreneur way back in the early days of robotics. So I kind of grew up with that mentality, that perspective of we create our own destiny, and we have the power to shape our future any way that we want it to be. So I am a serial entrepreneur myself. Prior to Passive Bolt, all of my endeavors starting companies were just solopreneur opportunities that I built myself, largely service-based companies. So the most recent one that I am still currently growing right along here with Passive Bolt is a book editing and book marketing company. I'm a published author myself. I have 3 books that I've published, and I realized there is a void. There is a lack of directed, education for people who are first-time authors. And I wanted to create a company that could fill that space. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, we get our ideas based on what's not there, what's missing, how can I fill this space with something valuable? And that's really what I sought to do with my company. It's called Stellar Media Club, and we have authors from all around the world. I have grown. It's not just me anymore, which is exciting. I have a staff writer who works with me, and I'd say some of the things that I learned from that experience that definitely helped me with my job as VP of marketing is just when you think you know your consumer, that's when a curveball is going to hit you, and you're going to get to know them on a different level or maybe on a deeper level. And that's what I've really seen happen as I've done customer discovery and things like that for my writers groups. Right when I think I have them nailed and I have them pegged and I know what they need, I learn something new and I'm able to take it to a deeper level. And I think that's just a great reminder that, no matter where we are, how long we've been in our role, just don't get comfortable. Be willing to grow, be willing to keep your mind open, because that's how you can become even better.
Absolutely. Definitely got to just keep on learning. All right. We got through these questions pretty quickly. There's only one more for me tonight. That's also for both of you. So we'll do Kylie and Sheena again. And that is, do you have any advice for students thinking of applying to the clinic?
Sure. So I was a clinic member, and I was also a field manager within the clinic once my graduation as a member of the clinic. So I think my biggest tip is when you're applying, give your resume a little extra love. Make sure, it's completely up to date. I was reviewing some of the resumes of people who were applying last year, and, some people, simple mistakes like forgetting where they're going to school or adding their major. So just kind of those important things to make sure we have all the information we need to make sure, you're successful in the clinic. And also, just making sure you present yourself in the best light. You might feel like you don't have a lot of experience in certain areas, but there's great opportunities that you can leverage. Even, the past 2 years, you've learned so much going to school online and et cetera. So just really making sure you're giving yourself enough credit and just trying your best. The clinic's a great opportunity. So, best of luck to everyone who is applying.
Absolutely. Don't sell yourself short on that application. All right. Sheena, what advice do you have for potential applicants?
Yeah, absolutely. So Passive Bolt, we've been involved with this program for, I think, a few, if not several years now. And I've had the pleasure of working with students over the last few years. What I would say in regards to like the initial interview that students have with the company, where we get on in this digital world we live in now, thanks to 2020, we get on a Zoom call similar to this, and we have that initial conversation. I guess a word of advice or wisdom would be, that's your moment to really sell yourself to us, because prior to that, we've seen your resume, we understand your capabilities, and we're excited to have you work with us. We're excited to work with you and expand your skills any way that we can. And the students that have really stood out to me over the years, the ones that I can remember by name, that I still am actively following on LinkedIn and celebrating their successes, they were the students that went out of their way to really pitch themselves to us, to make sure that we understood everything they had to offer, and to be proactive and let us know the things that they were very passionate about. Because as a leader, I'm going to want to assign, I guess, tasks to the students that tell me, you know what, I have all of these skills, I have this experience, but I'm just so passionate about this thing over here. Of course, I'm going to want to assign you the bulk of your responsibilities in the area that you're the most passionate about. So I would say, if you're leading into this upcoming session with this program, is don't be afraid to let the person that is your main point of contact, in this case it's me with our company, don't be afraid to let us know what you love, because we're going to want to encourage you and to provide things for you to do that make you feel confident and make you feel good. I'll throw a couple little curveballs in there, of course, because sometimes there are just things that have to get done. But for the most part, I really appreciate the students that were confident, proactive, and they really let us know what they were interested in and what would make them feel like this was a very good use of their time. Because I want my students that I work with, I want them to feel like at the end of the session, yes, they've grown, they've matured, but they were able to enjoy themselves along the way. So I do my best to be enjoyable, to be very responsive, and just to make sure that they're having a good time as well.
Absolutely. That's great advice, especially in a setting like a clinic. Don't be afraid to just make your interests known.
Yes, absolutely. And it stands out because a lot of the time, I think, what Kylie was saying, you want to be respectful, you want to be reserved. You're kind of like, I don't know what I can pull off here. I don't know what's appropriate or not appropriate to say. And I think that most of us, when we're joining with this program as a company, we want to feel like we are working together as a team. So definitely keep that in mind.
For sure. All right. So that is all from me tonight. Thank you for your answers. I will now turn it over to Tariq for our Q&A.
All right. I'm going to pull up some questions from the Facebook chat. And the first one comes from Bud Gibson, and it says, does Kylie have a new camera? It looks very high tech.
I do not have a new camera. I have a new work laptop, which unfortunately I'm not on right now. Maybe, it's the California light, maybe boosting the camera quality a little bit, but unfortunately I still am working with a relatively old laptop for personal use. So
it actually looks pretty nice, though. I'm not going to lie.
Okay, good. I'm very glad.
All right. Following off that question, Bud had another question, and it says, what is the difference between an account coordinator and an exec? And this is for Kylie again.
Sure. So an account coordinator, at least in my specific agency, kind of helps across the board with support wherever needed, depending on what a client accounts you're on. Not as much a leading role, and not as much client time as well. So once I moved up an executive, I had specific responsibilities that I was in charge of. And I also had a lot more time to interact with my clients one-on-one and just get to know them a bit better as well in a leadership position.
Great answer. Great answer. Following off that, we have a question from Austin, and this is for Sheena, and it says, Sheena, what advice can you give to a first-time entrepreneur?
That is such a great question. And I'm going to go back in my own mind to one of the first companies I ever founded. And it had nothing to do with psychology. I started an etiquette and protocol advisory company, and I was a solopreneur opportunity that I made myself. And one of the things that I learned from that is, do not be afraid to pivot. Do not be afraid to leave what you think is your absolute passion today, if maybe in 3 years it's no longer your passion. I was able to take my materials, to take the clientele that I had built and move it on over into someone else's arena and kind of separate myself from that situation to pursue my second company. And I did that because I think of the example of my father and my grandfather when they were constantly moving forward and they were constantly growing and expanding. So don't be afraid to move on to greater and new things if what you currently are doing is just no longer serving you, or if you've lost your passion for it, or in my case, if you think you've taken it as far as you can and you want to put it on over into someone else's plate to take it even further.
Great advice. Yeah, being an entrepreneur is a lot of passion, a lot of risk taking, but it's fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of risk, that's for sure. And I think people perhaps don't realize when they're first getting into it just how much self-sacrifice there is involved, as well as you need to push yourself, because at the end of the day, nobody else is going to do it for you. So you have to believe in your goals and believe in your passion so much that you're willing to continue to move forward, even if it gets monotonous, even if it's difficult, etc.
Okay, I got you. Our next question comes from Anna, and this is for Kylie, and it says, Kylie, how did the Digital Summer Clinic prepare you for your current job?
That's a great question. I feel like the summer clinic had a lot to do with my success in my current role. That was really my first opportunity to work in this kind of setting. I'd previously done a lot of customer service. I worked in restaurants and at a dry cleaners. And obviously, that's pretty directly related to client work. And when you're client facing, you kind of have to have those customer service skills. But the clinic allowed me to grow in the other areas I wasn't as familiar with. And my work for the clinic was very similar to PR. We were working strategic communication, brainstorming, and even just those little skills like, time management, making sure staying up on communication with the person you're working with and teamwork. I think those all really directly relate to what I'm doing right now, and the clinic really helped me grow in those areas.
That's really good. Yeah, like from what I've heard from Bud, he always says it's not going to be the kind of internship where you're just grabbing coffee and not really doing anything. You're going to be gaining actual experience. So that's pretty good.
Absolutely.
So the next question I have is from Austin, and it says, what program should a business major get used to? And I'm going to open this one up for Sheena.
All right. So you're going to ask the psychology major about what a business major. Kylie, I would defer to you if you feel like you have more direct experience here.
I am unfortunately not super familiar with what business majors kind of have to do on their day-to-day. I know I've talked to a few business majors, and I think just overall, I would encourage anyone who's interested in any area to look into student organizations, especially those at Eastern. I know there's business organizations, so any opportunity to really work on those skills outside of the classroom and networking as well, I think is a great opportunity.
Yeah, very wise. Yes.
Okay, got you. I have a question from Sufyan, and it says, Sheena, how can I get more information about your product? Do you have a website that you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So the product is Shepherd Lock, and our website is shepherdlock.com. Shepherd is spelled Sheppherd. Sometimes it's not a commonly used word, so people misspell it just because it sounds a little different than it's actually spelled. But yeah, shepherdlock.com. You can find all the information there. We also have, with one of our interns we were working with through this program, I believe it was last year, she built up our YouTube page for us as well. Very hands-on there, so you can also find us on YouTube and find some really fun digital content that she was able to create for us. If Facebook or Instagram is your preference, you can also find us there. We're also on Amazon and Home Depot online currently. So we are working hard to build a presence.
All right, great. That's all for Q&A today. I'm gonna move it over to the host, Zach, again, and yeah, we'll wrap it up.
All right, before we head out, I want to thank everyone again for watching Digital Live. Be sure to apply to digitalsummer.clinic. Here's a link courtesy of Bud. That'll also be clickable for anyone watching after this is recorded. And also, be sure to check out our Eventbrite for all of our upcoming events, including the Pinterest tour this Friday. Here is the link for that. All right. Kylie, Hina, thank you for being here with us. It was great having you both on. Great to meet you. And stay tuned for our next episode on April 6th at 6 p.m. We are going to have 4 former interns on, Gabby Giannuzzi, DeAndre Hicks, Sydney Pope, and Kayla Henneman to share some success stories and where they are now. All right. Have a great night, everyone.